acceptable pinch hitter, because Tim is here. Where's Tim? He'll be.
I'm right here. I'm right here. I'm right here.
And I want to. I thought at first, when we first planned this a long time ago, we would be in the forum, and I had a special little line I was going to think about the feeling I have when I'm in the forum, thinking about people like Desmond Tutu and Father Greg Boyle and just a list of people who are world shakers that have given me gifts down there. So I wanted to say this special blessing on this holy space. Today I'm going to have to get more energy up because I'm going to have the whole Regis building as a special blessing for, because all those years when I was blessed by people like that, Richard Rohr, and I would think back on what this church has given me in terms of growth and leadership. I guarantee that as you look back a few years from now, you will list Desmond Tutu and other people, but there's going to be a woman named Ida Puliwa who's going to come to mind, because she is a spiritual force of nature that has the ability to take her own caring for other people and get other people involved in it. And what I have an underlying endpoint that I want this morning from us. I want this nucleus of people to be like a nucleus of Ida followers who can take goodness and volunteerism and use volunteerism so that every member of this parish is reaching out, doing something of good in the community. That's what brought me to All Saints in the first place. It was that kind of place. And I want us to continue to be that place. Okay, that's enough about my ancient history from the old man. Come on up, Ida.
Don, why don't you introduce her fully and
Yes. I was gonna.
Okay.
Go ahead, let me come over here, buddy. Ida has become literally like one of my daughters, one of my many daughters. We have spent so many hours together. Ida comes from, that's good, the very small Southeast African country, Malawi. Is that okay? I have done work, volunteer work medically in many countries throughout Central America and Africa. Malawi is literally the poorest country I've ever seen. I've been in the little places where the people live without running water, without electricity, with grass roofs often, outdoor toilet facilities, and hunger like I've never seen, and illness at a level I've never seen. Yet the people have something about them, a sense of community that makes them care for one another. And Ida is the essence of that. I met Ida 12 years ago. Ida grew up in a small village, and I'm going to have her tell all that story. Let her tell all that story. So let's move on, and Ida, why don't you tell about how we met?
Thank you so much, Don. So, Don is right. Thank you all for coming. One day on 27th of July, 2013 in Malawi, I was with a woman who supported me in college. So this wonderful woman told me that she was going to introduce me to a special doctor from the US. But one thing she told me, she said that this is a serious doctor, so you don't need to smile or talk anyhow. So that really got me nervous, and I was a bit scared. I remember going to the washroom, rehearsing how I was going to smile for him. So we met for the first time during dinner, and I was surprised that what I could see from Dr. Don Thomas was not what I was taught. He ended up being charming, friendly, and I ended up breaking the rule. Like, I was smiling too. So that is how we met years ago. Thank you so much.
I think people want to sort of have a sense of your journey. So start with sort of your first impressions and your first thoughts about where your ministry and your work began.
All right, so I can say that the first impression was not good. Actually, I always say that I never liked the communities that I'm now working, because growing up in such community was a big challenge for me. I remember, telling myself that all I need is to find the opportunity to move out from this community, because the community rejected me and my family just because they believed that my mom was cursed for having daughters as children. So life was hard. Most of the times I was all alone, and maybe with my sisters. Most of the night I cried, asking myself questions like, why was I born in this community? But to the amazement of God, it ended up that the very same community that I actually hated, I ended up loving being in it. I made so many friends. I was able to express love, and I was able to change people's minds, and people have now turning out to be so loving and caring for one another, so respecting, and that's what's the good thing about it now.
How do you think you were able to change people's minds? How were you able to bring that love out from them? And how were you able to get people treating others more respectfully?
Thank you. So I used love and kindness to change people's hearts. Because from the beginning, I remember we used to go to church, because I was born from the family that used to go to a Presbyterian church. So every Sunday when we go to church, and maybe I attended a Sunday school as a child, we could hear the word of God. And what caught my attention was this word which said that God is love. And we used to sing this famous song like, you cannot say you love God if you don't love your neighbor. That's what you used to sing. But to my surprise, it was like we talked about love at church, and then we went back to our homes. Everything changed. The same people that we are talking about love, singing about love, could force young girls to get married without their own will. Same people could mistreat the elderly people, accusing them all sorts of things. Same people could watch their neighbors suffer. Maybe their neighbors struggling with hunger, yet they had food in their homes. So it was like we used to preach what we felt to do or to practice. So to me, that was not the right thing to do. That was not love.
Well, Don wants
I know something about your background. I know what a hard time it was in your family, and there's some dynamics in your family in terms of gender and your role in the family. It made it seem impossible for me that you could have come out as dynamic and loving as you did. Can you talk about the problems of being born as a little girl in your village and what happened in your family?
Right, thank you. So I was born in a community that never believed in a power of a girl child education. Girls were not valued in my community. Only boys were valued, and if a woman had given birth to boys, she was treated as a queen. Unfortunately for my mom, she never had that privilege because she ended up having us girls. So life was a bit difficult. Our family rejected us. My father was forced to marry another wife who could bring him the most valued child, the son. And when he refused, we ended up being kicked from our own home. We moved to a strange place where we stayed. And I remember one day my father told me that he was going to make me a boy child that the entire community never had. And he tried to be kind to me. He was so loving. He could train me. I remember I could play football with him. Football in Malawi is regarded as a game for men. And most of the times after school, he could teach me how to read, how to write, despite the fact that he was just a high school dropout. And I ended up doing well in class and became the first girl from my community of over 24,000 people to graduate from high school. So that is a bit of my background.
Your parents must be so proud of you. Are they still alive, or were they alive to see the good works that you would do?
Yes, both my parents are alive, and they are so proud of what is happening now. Most of the times I remember maybe when we have an event in my community and my father maybe has been given a mic to speak, what he always says is like, you see what my daughter has become now. You rejected her, you judged me. You said girls were nothing, but you see what a girl has now accomplished. So I know that he's always proud of me, and my mom is always proud. But the good thing is that they are all so supportive. Yes.
So talk about some of what you have accomplished. Talk about the work that you've done there. Give us a sense of all of that.
Thank you so much. So where I'm from is a community that is in a very remote area, very rural area. There is no running water, no electricity, no good infrastructure. Actually, in that community when I was growing up, I could see people struggling with not just poverty, but hunger. There were most of the times during the hunger season when even children could die. I remember going through an experience where we had this hunger and one family died because they ended up eating something poisonous, thinking that it was food. So it's a community that children can drop out from school because they don't have food to eat. So it's like going to school without eating any food. It's a community where children can go to school without putting any shoes, or maybe failing to go to school because the families cannot afford to buy them school uniform. So what we did as Otagaka Foundation first was to recognize like the barriers that affect girls to go to school, in the same time trying to bring transformation, like to uplift the most poor members of the community. So our programs are mostly centered on empowering girls while removing the barriers that affect the community, meaning that the barriers that could be even a problem to the families where they are coming from. So we do have education scholarship through the Girls Empowerment Program. where we have supported over 600 girls in high schools because, like I said, I used to be the only girl that graduated from high school, but now over 600 girls are in school. And actually what was causing them to get married or to be forced to get married, one of it was poverty. So what you are saying is that instead of forcing your girls into illegal marriages, let us send them to school and we'll sponsor them so that they can get educated, and after getting educated, they will come back to the community, support you and the entire community. So there are other girls that can no longer go back to school, but they were forced into illegal marriages. So when we rescue them from such marriages, because when I say illegal marriage, I mean marriages that are completely illegal. When I say they are completely illegal, it means that even the laws of Malawi does not recognize such marriages because the girls are underage. Some of them are as young as 13 years old, 14 years old, and when they get married, they don't go there as a wife, like a normal wife. They go there as, should I say, a mistress, like there is already a wife, a senior wife, and because the family is stranded, they use them now as their transaction to get money from their men. So it's illegal. Yeah, so when we rescue them, if there are others that can no longer go back to school, we train them to become tailors, or we take them to our sewing school, and after graduating, we give them a sewing machine and startup materials to start their own businesses and have money to support their children. But for those that are privileged to go back to school, we continue to sponsor them until they make it to public universities. At the moment, we have 58 girls in various public universities in Malawi, and out of this number, some are in medical school, others are studying engineering, others are studying chemistry. We have one girl that was selected to study law, so she's going to be a lawyer from the same community. And we have more girls this year that we are selected to study business in one of the best universities in Malawi. So you can see the impact that we are doing to make sure that we don't have only Ida as a graduate from the community, but we should have the entire community with girls that are educated. So because of hunger as well, some girls become victims of illegal marriages. During the hunger season, a family can make a choice to say, since we are struggling in this house, let's send our daughter to get married and let the husband feed us. So what we are doing as Otakalaka is to bring sustainable agriculture program where we are empowering such families to plant twice a year, to plant crops twice a year. Because in Malawi, if you have to get like a huge harvest, then you need to have suitable farm inputs like seeds, fertilizer, and all that. So we are able to provide that to the poor families so that they can harvest more and have enough food to feed their families and even other relatives so that the girls cannot go into marriages. And there are some challenges like when we talk of health. Many families were affected by the issue of HIV and AIDS. So in many homes, there are people that are very sick, but they can no longer be admitted in the hospitals because there is no space, so they send them back home to wait for their time. Of course, some of them are women who have like cervical cancers. And when they are sent back to their homes, it's like a girl child becomes a victim to take care of them. So what we are doing is to send the girls back to school and involve our team of volunteers to work as caregivers to take care of such people that are very sick. So in summary, at Otakaka Foundation, we have 6,800 volunteers that are actually working in the communities in different, doing different work to make sure that our girls are in school and they are not, involved in any of maltreatment in the villages. Thank you.
What she's doing is a miracle. When I see other areas of Malawi, I've seen nothing like it. But what is the most exciting thing to me, or a wonder, is how you, as a little village girl, only no boys in the family, how you got by the barriers of gender discrimination and poverty, and were able to enroll 6,800 volunteers over the years. There's a story about the resistances you had to get over, and it's kind of miraculous. So tell us about how you started this whole thing of Otakaraka, back in the beginning.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so after graduating from high school, I was at home because my family couldn't afford to raise $5,000 to send me to university. So one day, while at home, we had a visiting professor from Virginia Tech who came to speak to the community members. This professor, Dr. Makita Hill, was supposed to come with a translator from Blantyre, which is like our urban city. But lucky for me, the translator got sick on their way to the village. And when they arrived, I ended up to be the only person who could manage to translate for her. So within a day, I ended up being a hero. And Makita was so inspired. And she was, when I shared with her my story, she was like, I'm going to sponsor you. So she ended up sending me to college. And as a way of appreciating her kindness, I wanted to pay back to the community because I wanted to see more girls getting education like me. And I wanted to see, you know, my villages being transformed. So when I went to the village, because in Malawi, when you want to start something, you need to get an approval from the chief. So I went straight to the chief and shared with him my vision. But he told me that, no, you cannot do this because you are just a girl. He said something like, you are supposed to get married, have children, and take care of your husband. Don't try to be like a man. So he rejected me. I went to several chiefs. They did the same until this one woman chief gave me support. So I had the privilege of speaking to a large number of people, sharing them with my vision and asking them to join Otakaraka as volunteers. But because of the same challenge of being a girl, the majority of them were not interested. So I ended up having 65 volunteers. Of course, out of the 65 volunteers, I had a supporting boyfriend by then, who is now my husband and is here, Ted Mwango. And they both gave me all the support that I needed because it was not easy. Despite the fact that we started Otakaraka, but the rejection continued. There were so many threats, you know, they could threaten me and all that, but that never stopped us. We kept moving, we kept bringing more impact until the very same chief actually wanted to benefit from the adult literacy program that we started, and she became the full-time member of our volunteer team. And when she joined, it was like, people were like, how come he has joined? It means this organization is good, so we need to join as well. So majority started to join until we reached a number of 6,800, and we said we cannot take more volunteers, let's stop here. So that's how we started, and that's where we are today, because we have even spread it to more communities in Malawi. Thank you.
When I first heard about Ida, I heard that she had this volunteer organization, and I asked Marquita and I asked Ida, how much do you pay the volunteers? Well, that doesn't make sense in our language, saying paid volunteers. But in Malawi, that was the way it was. NGOs or churches would come in with a good project, and to get it going, they would pay people to help them. And they were more like short-term employees. And they should be paid. I wasn't against that. But the word volunteer always clashed with me. And I saw that when projects stopped, when the salaries stopped, often the project died. I would take people from All Saints around and say, look at this project, imagine if the American dollars are gone for a year, what's going to be here next year? So I didn't trust this girl who said she had paid volunteers. And the way she has done this is a miracle. Tell me about your non-paid volunteers and how that works.
Yeah, so we have 6,800 non-paid volunteers. Like I've said, we started from 65. So what made us to start that was because when we started Otaka Foundation, the issue was like, where are we going to get the money to keep our programs going? Because we wanted to support education. We wanted to support the elderly people with food and all that. And we needed money for that. But we never had anyone to bring us money. So you can imagine that the people who are very poor, who are struggling even to eat in their homes, who are struggling even to raise 10 American cents, maybe in a week or two, but you are telling them that we need to start contributing to support the program of the organization. So I should confess that it was not easy when I broke this to them, because they were like, Ida, are you joking? Where are we going to get the money to pay as contributions? Because the contribution is 7 American cents. But when I shared with them about true love, about true kindness, where you don't need to care about yourself, but caring about your neighbor, where you care about seeing your community going forward instead of yourself going forward. And these people were moved, and they accepted that they were going to start paying 7 cents every month. And I should tell you that it's not easy for them even until now. We have some members who actually contribute this amount 3 times before they finish the total amount. They can bring 2 cents, another 2 cents, then they bring 3 cents maybe by the end of the month. But the most important thing is that the very same money that they are actually contributing, or they are struggling to contribute, the very same money are able to support maybe an orphan to go to school. Maybe this money, we are able to use them maybe to buy, tree seedlings, maybe tree seeds, to sow tree seedlings which we plant in the community. The very same money, we can use them to buy food and feed an elderly person who is struggling with hunger. The very same money, we can use that to buy, housing materials and build a house for a family which is homeless. So these people are so proud of themselves because they are able to see what 7 American cents can actually transform somebody's life. And the good thing is that they don't care that they are struggling, but they are happy that somebody's life has changed or is changing because of that small contribution. Thank you.
Do you have international supporters and donors? Do you partner with other agencies to continue your work?
Thank you. Yes, we have so many partners, not so many, but we have partners. Even in this building, I'm able to see people that have been, supporting us. There's people like Don Thomas, we have other people here, Florence, we have, and we have Victor, who is the IDA president. We have Don Miller, who came to Malawi to interview me just to get support for the organization. We have Jana and Peter that have been so helpful to us. But the issue is that despite that, people are trying all they can to bring support to Otaka Foundation. There's still many needs from the community. Because when we started, for example, rescuing the girls from the illegal marriages, many girls came out and they were able to speak out. They were able to show us interest that they wanted to go to school. And we managed to rescue them from such marriages. But if you can come in my office today, you'll find out that we have a list of over 100 girls that are actually waiting for us to send them back to school, because at the moment we cannot send them back because we don't have money. And also our community for the past 2 years, we were hit by, calamities. Like last year, we had storm that swept away many villages. People lost their crops, their houses, and they still need support, to farm again. They need more food. This year we had Cyclone Freddy, which was like a prolonged dry spell, which affected many families, like their crops dried in the field. So these people are waiting for us to bring them support so that they can replant again and have more food in their homes. So each and every day there is a need that actually arises and that needs money to get rid of it. Thank you.
So I want to make sure that there's time for you all to ask questions. Do you have questions here that you'd like to ask of Ida? Here we go.
Ida, since I interviewed you a few years ago, I want to just comment on several things you haven't yet said and have you elaborate them. One is on your tree planting project. How many trees do you plant in a year, and how are they cared for? And then also, how do you bring water to the fields?
Thank you so much, Dawn. So each and every year we plant over 1 million trees, and maybe you may be wondering, like, how do we manage to do that? We have a team of 6,800 volunteers and over 600 students in high schools. So these people are the ones doing all the labor, like starting from sowing, up to planting, up to irrigating. So to make our work easy, in each and every village, because we have 57 villages, we make sure that they have their own tree nursery where they can, take care of the trees. And when it's time to plant now, we take the trees and we start distributing them in various public schools, and other trees are planted within the communities and others along the riverbanks. The riverbanks. What we are trying to do is to bring the forest back home, and we are ready to plant so many trees. When we talk of agriculture, yeah, it's true, he interviewed me, and I think one thing that I did not say is that we introduced the sustainable irrigation agriculture, whereby when farmers plant their crops during the dry season with no rain or all that, we use water trenches, which we dig manually or traditionally from the riverbanks to the farms. So what we actually do is to make sure that we have a team of volunteers who are able to take maybe the trenches from the rivers, maybe up to a distance of 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers, and be able to irrigate the farms, the crops in the farms, so that we can have a bumper harvest even during the dry season when the rain is not available.
How did that develop? You told me about the trenches and how the story about.
Yeah, so this idea came in because one day while I was in college, I watched a documentary while in the restaurant. That documentary was from Asia, one of the countries in Asia, and I saw farmers, irrigating their crops so they could take water from the lake using the big pipes to irrigate the crops in the farms. And it came to my mind thinking about my community, like if we can have this opportunity, then it meant that people would no longer suffer from hunger. But the challenge were how to get the equipment, like the big pipes. So I remember when I presented the idea to the community leaders, they were like, it cannot work because that's impossible. But when we gave it a try, we dug the trenches and we had our first crop, we realized that it worked. Actually, all the farmers that planted and irrigated, they ended up harvesting more crops than ever before. And since that time done, up until this year, we have now supported over 11,000 families because it keeps working. Thank you.
What are the kinds of crops that you're growing?
So in my community, we mainly plant corn, which we call maize, because that's the Malawian staple meal. We also plant nuts, like ground nuts. We plant beans, we plant cassava, we plant rice, and we have also just started planting bananas. Yes.
Comment on the rocket stoves.
Thank you so much. So we introduced rocket stoves in order to save energy that is used for cooking. We don't have electricity. We don't have cookers. We don't use gas cookers. We use firewood in the kitchen to make food. So we realized that the victims of this method of cooking were girls. Because if you can go to the community every day between 5, 6, 7, 8 a.m., you will find out that girls have gone to the mountain, very far away from the community, to fetch firewood, which they use for cooking. And by doing so, they end up missing going to school. So we introduced the rocket stove, which actually saves over half of the energy that can be, or firewood that can be used for cooking for a period of 1 month. So this rocket stove, apart from saving the firewood, it also promotes hygiene because it does not have many ashes as we do with the traditional 3 rocks stove. And also in the communities, the people are able now to cook their food outside the house because they mostly use, you can find out that a family has a 1-bedroom house, but that 1-bedroom house actually is it has maybe 8 family members, and within the same house they have, a traditional stove where they cook inside, and it has smoke all over through. But with this, the rocket stove, they can build it outside, and it keeps all the hygiene. Thank you.
Talk about some of the work that the girls now, no doubt young women who you have educated. What are they now doing after they finish university or college? What do they go on to do after that?
Yeah, so these girls, after graduating, they can go in the city and start working. If they want to come to America to work, they can come to America and start working. But what we are encouraging them is to maintain the spirit of passing on the kindness, like always remembering about their communities and always identifying the people that they can actually support after graduating. For example, we have this girl, the very first girl that we supported in school. We rescued her from the illegal marriage and we sent her back to high school. And after she graduated, we could not send her to college because we never had money. Lucky enough, that year, it was the very first year that we started partnering with the University of Michigan. So we had a student from the executive MBA program. One of them was Mr. Victor Renares, who is here with us today. So this team, actually, they sent Eunice to study nursing. And when she came back, she told us that she wanted to work within the community because she wanted to pass on her kindness starting from the community where she grew up in. And another thing that motivated her to stay in the community was that she wanted to be a role model to other girls who were like the victims of illegal marriage, so that when they could see her, they can feel encouraged not to give up in life, but work hard in school. So Eunice is back with us, working at our community clinic as a nurse, but we have another girl who is now working in Blantyre, and some of the girls are still in college, but our expectation is that though they will graduate and find their own jobs, but they will still continue to pass on the kindness.
That's just spectacular. Other questions? Other questions? Yes, Thomas, hang on.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm just going to sit for just a moment because I was supposed to be here in this seat and ran into typical Southern California traffic in the Sunday morning. Ida, it is a pleasure to be sitting next to you. I have done my homework over the week, and I was so excited to do this interview, and so I'm going to at least get in one question with you. And Dawn, just thank you for bringing this amazing. I mean, y'all, this is just amazing what we are responding to this morning. And so as we kind of wrap up in this space, I want to know about long-term goals you have for the future. How do you see this continue to evolving, and what is a hope that you want to see really come true for this organization?
Thank you so much. So our long-term goal is to see Otakalaka spreading throughout many communities in Malawi, especially in the rural communities where girls are victims of illegal forced marriage. And the most important thing that I want to see is the passing on the kindness philosophy keeps, spreading. Because I believe that if this passing on the kindness has spreaded throughout Malawi, then it means most of the communities will get transformed and people will not be struggling or dying with hunger anymore. And one thing I believe is that once a community has people that went to school, that community will never be the same again, because the same people that can get educated, they can be the same people that can bring running water, that can bring electricity, that can bring better education once they are empowered with education. So I believe that will keep spreading throughout Malawi. Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. How can folks continue to stay updated with the work that's going on? I think I saw a sign-in sheet for email if you wanted, but how can folks continue to be updated and know about the work?
So we have a website, www.otakalakafoundation.mw. I know Otakalaka is very difficult to pronounce, but you can just type OTK and you'll find us like OTK. We are also on social media platforms, like all social media platforms. And here in USA, with the help of members like Don Thomas and other people, Victor and all the people, we registered a non-profit, which is IDA, like I Demand Access. So it's a 501c3 organization where people can also go and see the work that we do. Thank you.
Well, can we just applaud both the work and just the magnificent story that we've been able to share in this space today. Thank you so much for being with us here at All Saints, and thank you, Dawn, and both Dawns really in the house, and for all those who have been inspired by this work. I'm just so moved and to know that outside, sometimes we get so stuck in what's happening in our region, and just knowing that there is a ripple effect when we actually tap into kindness. So thank you for being that model for us and for being with here this morning. We will conclude our time here, and we will look forward to the hundreds of animals are lining up for us for the blessing in just a moment. But thank you all for being here this morning. Appreciate it very much.